They had a lot of courage. What do I mean by that? Did you guys see when they were originally designing StarCraft, which is now one of the most important games ever made, right? StarCraft really revolutionized, right? You know, when you think of a revolution means change, right? StarCraft revolutionized video games. You know, there was never a game like that before. The combination of the story, the way that the gameplay was, right? So what's really interesting over here is that they had courage, and what I mean by that is, remember when they were first designing StarCraft, they said that they took it to this convention, right? And everyone was like, oh, works in space, okay. So everyone was like, this is basically Warcraft, right? But it's in space. It's like you guys aren't doing anything new. You guys are just changing the colors. And it looks just like your other game, right? So they had already worked on it for like a year, right? But then they decided, you know what? Stop. They said, even though we've invested 1 year's worth of resources, right? And that's important. Like they've already put so much money into it. You put in money, right? And time. Right? You put in money and time towards this. But they said stop. Why? Because this is not what we want this game to be. We want this game to have the same standard as everything that's come before that, right? Because Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2, the two games, the strategy games that came out before then, was this idea that you know, they were such highly regarded games. They were so successful. It's kind of like you have to meet that standard, right? When an actor, right, is in really, really great movies, right? You know, everyone expects that every movie that he does, or he or she does, is going to be amazing. It's the same thing when you're an artist, right? Or when you're developing something, like video games or some kind of technology. If you've established some kind of standard, right, you shouldn't be satisfied with saying that, okay, this game probably isn't going to be as good. So what did they do? They scrapped it, right? And then they completely, well, they just basically started all over. Started StarCraft all over. And this is such a huge thing that immediately when you think about this, you're like, okay, how can you justify this, right? You're saying that we've already spent 1 year's worth of money and time bringing the game to this state. Are you saying we're going to throw all of that away? And they said, yeah. And because you have to realize that, you know, if you finish the game the way that it was, your reputation suffers, right? People are going to be like, oh, they're not as good as they used to be. And that is bad for every single game. It's like if we created a bunch of sweaters, right? Or a bunch of like t-shirts that are really, really great and everybody loves how they feel, everybody loves how they look, right? Every year when we design new clothes, right? They have to meet that same standard. We have to be able, people who buy our clothes, they have to feel the same way, right? They have to feel like, wow, every year, you know, we always wait for you guys to come out with new t-shirts or new types of clothing, right? But the problem is that, you know, if you come out with something that's like, it doesn't look cool, or it doesn't look nice, or it doesn't feel nice, people are going to be like, oh, well, you know, these guys aren't as good as they used to be. Let's try something else. So you lose your customers, right? That's something that's really, really important. When you lose your standard, you lose your reputation. When you lose your reputation, you lose your customers. So even though you're wasting the time and money that you put in, sometimes you have to make decisions like that. If you feel as though the product that you're going to produce, right, does not meet the standard that you have put there, that's the standard that your fans, right, or your consumers expect of you, it's a better decision to start over again. And that proved to be a great idea for them. And this is something that's very, very uncommon, right? Because immediately you're always going to think, what about all the money that we spent developing it so far? And you have to have the courage to say, we have to stop, we have to just treat that like it's gone. We can't do anything about that anymore, but we have to start again, right? We have to start from scratch, from step one. So that's something that I think is really, really important in their overall, the way that they design their products, right? So just to recap, we've talked about the fact that, you know, their games had unique features, and this is something that applies to anything, right? Anything that you create as a new company, there's competitors, right? Apple and PC, right? There was a time when Microsoft controlled 99% of the PC market. 99 out of 100 computers was a PC. Now it's like 80-20, right? You would think that who would even be crazy enough to challenge Microsoft, right? Everyone works with PCs, right? But now I think it's like 75-25 or 80-20, right? Now Apple, because they've been able to say the same things, right? That our products are unique. And we challenge technology, we challenge boundaries. The things that you thought I couldn't do with a PC, or the problems that I had with a PC, I don't have those same problems with an Apple product, right? That's the message that they give. Now, Apple products also have problems, but that's the message that they give, right, to their consumers, right? It's a different look, it's a different feel, it's sexier, it's nicer, it looks cooler, right? So those are some of the things that you have to think about, when you're thinking about the concept of product development, right? So that's it. And the last thing is really, just once again, when you challenge boundaries, really what it is it's innovation. Innovation, right, means creating something new. Creating something new. So obviously, if we're starting a company, right? Of course, the whole reason for starting a company is because you have an innovation in your head, right? We see 10 other companies, right? H&M, Uniqlo, all these other companies that are creating T-shirts, right? But we think that we have an idea that's unique. We think we can do something that is not available on the market right now, right? That's our thought. That's why you even begin, right? But then, on top of that, you have to keep innovating. You have to keep being innovative. Because every year you have to come up with new ideas. You have to come up with new ideas, new thoughts, right? To stay ahead of your competition, because your competitors are doing the same thing, right? At every company, everyone's always trying to think of what can we do that's new? What can we do that's the next big idea, right? Blizzard, one of the biggest innovations that they had was their BattleNet system, their online system. Because, Frank talks about it at one point. They're saying that, a long time ago when I was in high school, if I wanted to play StarCraft against my friend, we would have to connect our computers, right? You've probably seen this, right? In the PC cafes in Korea, like all the computers are connected, and you play against the person who's like sitting across from you. It's kind of like in consoles in the Super Nintendo, right? You play against someone who's like you guys are both connected to the same machine. It's the same thing. So they realized that, we really kind of like what our fans are telling us, and what we really love to do is to play against our friends no matter where they are. So when Diablo came out, the first Diablo game came out, or Warcraft 2 came out, they started BattleNet. And BattleNet was this online system where you can play against, you could be in Korea and I could be in America, and we can play against each other. Or you could be in Japan and she could be in Korea, and you guys can play against each other. And that was really one of the first times in the industry that had been done. Very ambitious, very difficult to do, but once again, when you do believe in yourself, when you do have that idea, that confidence that if we really try something, we can challenge boundaries, and we can be innovative, and we can create something that the world has never seen. And this is part of why they've been so famous. Even now, like BattleNet is still around, and that's what's used when people play all over the world, basically. Now when you play these online games like World of Warcraft and stuff, I could be sitting in Bangladesh, you could be sitting in Japan, you guys could be sitting in Korea, and we can all play together using the BattleNet interface, right? So it's really thinking about the technology that's available. What can we do that's innovative? What can we do that people are always going to look at us and think that these guys are unique? That's what it is. When I think about that company, do I think that they're unique? Do I think that they create ideas that the world has never seen before, right? So those are some of the things.
Or was it first time that Blizzard did provide better lessons?
Yeah, when it was 1997. Diablo came out in 97, that's when it was. 96 or 97. It was before StarCraft. It was before StarCraft. The original StarCraft had BattleNet. Because that's how it became so popular, with like all these like players and stuff. It was like you could play anyone all over the world. So the last piece that I want to talk about, and this is one that's also kind of unique because this is something that companies don't do.